Secretary Clinton said there was nothing marked classified on her emails either sent or received. Was that true?
That's not true. There were a small number of portion markings on, I think, 3 of the documents.
Secretary Clinton said, I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified material. Was that true?
There was classified material emailed.
That was Congressman Trey Gowdy, and that was back in July, that exchange, looking for clarification on what was found on Hillary Clinton's private email server and the emails that traversed it. Clinton is trying to move on from this issue, and it looked like she could do that. But over the past week or so, it has become increasingly clear that she cannot. She also tried to downplay this AP report that came out that claimed that half of her non-government meetings when she was Secretary of State were with people who had made donations, and sizable donations at that, to the Clinton Foundation.
I know there's a lot of smoke and there's no fire. This AP report, put it in context. It excludes nearly 2,000 meetings I had with world leaders, plus countless other meetings with U.S. government officials when I was Secretary of State. It looked at a small portion of my time.
House Oversight Committee member Trey Gowdy joins us now. Good morning, sir. Good to have you back on the program. She says it's smoke, but there is no fire here. Your thoughts?
No, it's arson. It's pyromania. It's not smoke. Even listening to her talk about the Clinton Foundation, I couldn't help but go back and remember the press conference she gave on her emails, Martha, where every single thing she said proved to be false. That's the interesting thing about credibility and believability. You can't just keep it in one compartment. When you are a habitual serial liar in this facet of life, it tends to make people not believe you in other facets of life. So when she's talking about the Clinton Foundation, I go back and remember her saying there's no classified information. I only use one device. I did it for convenience, all of which were proven to be false.
Yeah. Well, one of the big questions here, she said she separated out the personal emails. But one thing we don't have a definitive answer to is whether or not she considered foundation business to be personal. So did she dump all of the foundation-related emails with the yoga and the wedding plans?
Well, Martha, you just put your finger on the, not the $1 million question, the $100 million question. I'm sure she's going to have a press conference later this afternoon or whenever she has the next one. I hope somebody in your line of work will ask her, did you consider foundation emails to be personal or work-related? I have yet to see a single foundation email produced by the State Department that was sent by her. Yeah. So if she considered them to be personal, then we move into the facet where she and her lawyers had those emails deleted. And they didn't just push the delete button. They had them deleted where even God can't read them. They were using something called BleachBit. You don't use BleachBit for yoga emails or for bridesmaids emails. When you're using BleachBit, it is something you really do not want the world to see. So I hope someone in your line of work will ask her, did you consider foundation emails to be personal or work?
All right, the other area that I want to get into with you is this FBI interview, because every time we bring this up on this program, we get a lot of response from our viewers. People want to understand how she was able to testify. It was long awaited, this testimony, this moment when the FBI would get to sit down at a table and ask her directly the questions that they wanted the answers to, because we know that James Comey said, this isn't an inquiry, as she said. He said, this is an investigation. All right, so let's assume it's an investigation. You looked at the notes from the investigation, and what can you tell us about what you learned?
Well, I read every word of all of the witness interviews yesterday. And, Martha, I'll tell you up front, there's no reason you should not be able to read a summary of that interview that I read yesterday. You and your viewers should be able to read everything that I read yesterday that related to the FBI investigation. There's no reason you should not. My takeaway was this. Remember, James Comey said she was not indicted because he didn't have sufficient evidence on the issue of intent. I didn't see any questions on the issue of intent. There's no question she handled them negligently or extremely carelessly. He said he didn't go forward with charges because she didn't have specific criminal intent. I didn't see any questions on that.
All right,
she said she did it for convenience, but I didn't see the follow-up questions in the interview I read.
All right, so James Comey was not in the room during this questioning, correct? That's your understanding?
Says he wasn't.
All right, so he says he wasn't in the room. Do we know how many FBI agents were in the room questioning her?
3 or 4, and there were some DOJ lawyers also in the room, and of course her lawyers were in the room.
All right, so as an attorney, if you wanted to ascertain whether or not anyone had intent to influence something or an action or someone, what kind of questions would you have asked? You say there were no questions that went to the issue of whether or not she had intent. What would you have asked?
Well, there are 2 ways to do it. One is circumstantial evidence. The other is direct evidence. The direct evidence would be, Madam Secretary, why did you set up this email server this way? Why did you not take a state.gov email address? And her response was, and it always has been, convenience. And then that's when you press and say, well, what could be more convenient than just doing a state.gov email address? The labyrinthine effort that you made to create this separate server, that's what's inconvenient. I would then ask, why did you delete emails that you kept for a year and a half? Keep in mind, these personal emails, she didn't bother to delete them for a year and a half. It was the fall of 2014, a year and a half after she left the State Department, that she decided to start deleting emails. Why didn't you delete them the month you left? Why didn't you delete them 6 months after you left? And the other question they should have asked her is, Madam Secretary, why didn't you turn your emails over the day you left service?
We got to leave
Why
it there.
did you hold on to them for almost 2 years?
We are out of time. Congressman, thank you. We will be right back.
Yes, ma'am.